Good morning. It is not morning here, but it's morning somewhere. And welcome to lecture 1 of my retention series. For the next 52 weeks, I will share a new lecture on retention every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific on YouTube. And the goal is that by the end of the year, you will have learned everything you need to know about retention, which will be super helpful because it will greatly improve your products. And by the end of this lecture, you will understand why. And that is why the lecture is titled, Why User Retention Matters More Than Anything, or Why Retention is Awesome. And I'm not just going to teach you retention. I will also be applying every lesson in public with real numbers to 2 of my own products. But I'll share more about that at the end. First, let's start with the elephant in the room. What is retention? And I just realized that I should have probably prepared a slide deck for this lecture instead of just using Affinity. But anyways, this is the first video. I knew it wasn't going to be the most polished one, but it's good enough. So what is retention? If I had to define it in one line, this would be it. It is how many users come back within a given time window. More on the within a given time window later, but basically this is it. This is the whole definition. It's not loyalty or love or brand affinity. It's simply this. It's someone got value from your product once, which is hard enough to do already. And harder yet is they came back later to get value again. And that's retention. What's helpful about thinking about it in that way is that it gives you a very brutally clarifying question, which I love, which is when someone tries your product, do they come back? And I love that question because it strips away every story you can tell yourself about your product. Like, I can look at my traffic from last month and compare it to this month and say, oh wow, we've doubled our traffic or our revenue. And that sounds great, but if the people who tried are not coming back to get value again, then you're in big trouble. In fact, I was listening to this A16Z podcast and they shared this quote, which I love, which is, show me the cohorts may be the new show me the money. And I will link to the podcast in the show notes. I will link to all the resources I mentioned here in the show notes. So why do investors want to see cohorts? And that is because of what I believe to be the boldest claim of the entire series, which is within any category, whether it's SaaS or consumer or social, etc., the most valuable company is pretty much always the one with the highest retention. And you do not have to take my word for it. Let's just look at the data. So there's this website, Reforge, and they have this great video, which I will also share in the show notes. And here is one of the slides from the video, which I find awesome. It's a 2x2 matrix, and the x-axis is retention, and y-axis is company value, so low to high in both cases. So on the bottom left quadrant, you will find Snapchat, which had a retention of 33%, which is super high, but super high is relative, so we'll see relative to what. And their market cap was 17 billion. And the same for X, which back then was Twitter. Retention was also 33%, and their market cap was 33 billion. However, when you look at the top right quadrant, you will find the big boss of retention, which back then was Facebook. They had a retention of 92%, which is bananas. And compared to the other 2 competitors, Facebook had a market cap that was over an order of magnitude higher. And you could say like, well, you know, these are social networks. It makes sense that people come back all the time. But what about B2C subscription music businesses? Same story. Again, you have Pandora, on the bottom left, 33% retention, market cap 3 billion. And this is crazy, by the way. I just want to give some context here, because 33% retention is not easy, which is why the companies that achieve it are worth billions. But again, everything's relative. And Pandora, market cap of 3.5 billion. Apple Music, higher retention, higher market cap. And then you have Spotify, which is 80% retention and $50 billion market cap. So again, different type of business than social networks, but retention wins again. And you thought I was done. Well, no, because if you look at B2C subscription boxes, the same story happens. Blue Apron versus Dollar Shave Club versus Stitch Fix. Stitch Fix has a retention rate of 80% and a market cap of 2.4 billion, which is much higher than their competitors that have lower retention. And this will just happen over and over and over again. If you can get retention in the 30% plus, you will probably build a business worth billions of dollars, because it is super hard. And I know that these market caps and these numbers are from 2018 because this course is a little bit outdated. But again, the point here is the pattern, and the pattern has not changed. Whether it's 2018 or 2026, you will see this over and over and over again. And you could say, like, okay, we were looking at these companies, it's nitpicking. Not true, because there's this cool blog post by Andrew Chen. It's an old post, but the story just repeats, where they looked at the top apps in the Android App Store, the Play Store, and the average retention is plotted here, which obviously on day one, like 100% of people are using your product. But by day 7, around less than 18% of people will use your Android app. I would bet that this is still true today, maybe even worse. And then they separated the top 5,000 or so apps in the App Store. So the top 10 apps in the App Store will, unsurprisingly, have the higher retention rate. So if you look at this graph, you see on day 1, everyone uses the app, which is fine. 100% of people are using your app. By day 2, it's less people. But the top apps a week later still have around 70% of users using the app. And even 3 months later, it's still around 58, 59% of users, which is nuts. And then the lower apps, these are still the top 5,000 or so apps in the App Store, but bear with me here. Ignore the millions that are pretty much dead. But the lower apps have, so what is this, like 22% of people still using the app a week later, only 22% of people. And 3 months later, I would say this is 7%. So again, this repeats over and over and over again. Now, you might also say, well, Richard, this might apply in B2C world, but over here in B2B land, we don't really look at retention. It's different. It's sales quotas and whatever. Well, Tom Tungus, who is a VC at Theory Ventures, wrote this blog post about a decade ago titled "The Leading Predictor of Series A Valuation for SaaS Companies." Can you guess what it is? It is not revenue growth. That's 0.18. It is not total revenue. That's 0.3. No, the highest correlation is revenue retention, which is 0.54. So read that again. Retention didn't just make the list of predictors, it beat revenue itself for predicting valuation. Bananas. And this stuff compounds for decades. So I saw somewhere that Amazon Prime converts 73% of their free trials into paying subscribers. And a year later, 91% of those people resubscribe. There's the retention. And even 3 years later, 96% of those people resubscribe, which is bonkers. the longer people stay subscribed to Amazon, the less likely they are to leave, which is crazy. But then I look at my own numbers. It makes sense. I've been an Amazon customer since I looked this up. My first order was on May 1st, 2010. So I have been a subscriber for the last 16 years. And that's what you want. You know, once you get retention right, it can last for decades. There's this old article by Jason Lemkin. It's 8 years old, but I just love the title, which is Growth is Good, but Retention Builds Empires. And if you look at Facebook, if you look at Amazon, you will see that this is absolutely true. So I hope I sold you on the importance of retention. And you might still be asking yourself, you know, Richard, why would you devote an entire year, an entire course to this topic? Why not just write a blog post like all the other guys you just shared? And I believe that because retention is this decisive, it deserves a heck more than just a blog post. So there are 3 reasons. But first, a little context on me. Hi, my name is Richard. I didn't introduce myself. I'm a software engineer, and I have been one for the last 8 years. And you will notice that what I love doing is building products. So part of me doing this course is because retention is so important, I should master it myself at a deep level. And by talking about it for a year and teaching for a year, I will learn far better. Part of the inspiration for this was this finance series that I wrote about 9 years ago, where every week I would share a different lecture on personal finance because I wanted to learn it for myself. Like, how do you pay taxes? How do you do with insurance? And how do you invest? And because of this series, I learned more about personal finance than I care to admit. I have not yet forgotten the things that I learned because of this year I spent writing about personal finance. And what was cool about the series was something that I hope happens with this retention series, which is as I would share what I learned, readers would tell me either you're wrong and here's the right data, or this is awesome, but this other thing is even better. And this is what I hope happens with the retention series, which is for the next year, I will share as much as I can on retention. And I hope that the feedback I get will make me better, it will make you better, and we will all win and build better products. And when I say better products, I mean it. And this chart shows you why. So this is my product, most recommended books, which is probably my most successful product. And this was me for 4 years focusing purely on growth, like a maniac. And I had a goal, and I said I wanted to reach this goal, and I just obsessed over it for 4 years. And here's what happens. I reached the goal, and then because I had no retention, as soon as I took my foot off the gas, this is what happened to the product. Now, this chart is a little bit dramatic because I would say that today the traffic is about half of what it was at its zenith. I mean, the startup still pays my bills. But I like showing it because it is dramatic and it shows you what happens when you do not focus on retention. But anyways, this graph is to show that I know what I'm talking about. I have made this mistake probably more than anyone else, and I have the scar tissue to prove it. Now, reason number 2 to teach this course is that almost no one else teaches this. It's a bit of a blind spot as a society. And to prove it, go on Amazon, open incognito mode, and search for marketing. And you will see example after example after example of marketing books. In fact, if you ask people for their favorite marketing books, they will give you a list. Now, if we do the same thing and instead we search for retention, the picture's a little more dire. And it's funny, I don't know if I can say this word on YouTube, but most of these books are not about retention. And even if they are, they're pretty terrible. I guess this one's okay. But again, it's a far cry from what happens when you search for marketing books. And I would argue that marketing is a subset of retention, and I will show you exactly what I mean later. And reason number 3 is that the best material that you'll find on retention, most if not all of them, are built for people at big companies, so like PMs and marketers. They are not built for people like me, indie hackers, solo developers, etc. And I believe there's a reason for that. So the number one criticism I get when I talk about this course is an early product does not have enough data to make retention decisions. And I disagree. And part of this course is me proving it. I believe that the principles work at any size. Obviously, the more data you have, the better it will work. But still, I will share my own experience. So I am creating a retention first analytics tool. And the reason for that is that all analytics tools focus on growth. And I know this well because I built my own analytics tool. I don't recommend you use it because I'm probably going to sunset this to focus on the retention first tool. But this is my analytics tool, and it looks like every other analytics tool where the number one focus is your traffic and your growth. And yeah, there are like little features here where you can add the funnels and you can have retention cohorts. But it's an afterthought. It's not the main star of the show. And I believe retention should be the main star of the show. And sure, there's not a lot of data here, right? So this is Mental Math Pro, which is one of my projects. And you can see that during the week of this cohort, it had 1,376 visitors, 38 signed up, 8 of them reached the value, and only 4 of them came back later. And these are small numbers. It is true, but I believe that it is still better than flying blind. And you will learn throughout this course that A/B testing and analytics, a lot of it is a mix between art and science. And the less data you have, the more art you have to use, the more data, the more science you can use. But still, even with a product as small as mine, I can already tell that if 1,400 people are visiting and only 38 are creating an account, then I'm doing something wrong with the homepage or with any of the other landing pages. And perhaps by fixing that, I will be able to meet the higher demand, right? So again, not getting hundreds of thousands of visitors and signups, but the sheer fact that I'm measuring it and looking at it already shows me very clearly what problems do I have to solve. And you could say 1,000 people is a lot. For some of us it is, right? Indie hackers. So this is why I'm sharing 2 of my projects throughout this course. This is BetterLink. And BetterLink has only had 140 visits during the week of this cohort. But you can see that already it is a better product than Mental Math Pro because A, it's getting more signups, and B, more signups are reaching habit compared to Mental Math Pro. So just from this, even though it's tiny amounts of data, you can already see one product is better than the other. You can already see what problem do you have to solve in each product. And chances are your numbers are going to look a lot more like this than the numbers you will see on retention courses. And that's why I'm building this. It's for people like me. And I believe that it's needed now more than ever. Now it's way easier to build and ship a product, but it's still brutally hard to get people to come back to it and increase your retention. But it is more necessary than ever. And you know, if you get it right, you will just crush your competitors who are ignoring this stuff. And there you have it. So I have made my case, Your Honor. And here's what we're going to do about it. Like I said, every week I will share a new lecture on retention, such as this one. And on each lecture, I will pair theory with implementation. So I'll teach the concept and I will apply it to my own projects so that over the course of the year, you will see how the concepts are actually helpful and they're helping both those projects. So let me share both projects with you. This is project number 1, Mental Math Pro. And it's very simple, where I wanted to learn mental math a few years ago. And I was reading books, I was trying these apps, I didn't love anything. And I learned that mental math is basically, you have to learn a few concepts. There's like 14, 15 strategies. And once you learn them, you just have to practice them like crazy over and over and over and over again. And if you do that, you'll just be able to quickly calculate numbers in your head. So what I did was a very basic website where you learn the concepts like a book, and you get to practice them as much as you want, which no book offered. And I priced it like a book because it's a one-time payment. And the people who have tried it have really loved it. But as you saw before, I am doing something wrong with getting the people who are visiting it to really try it. So in here is the biggest issue I have to solve with Mental Math Pro. And it has something to do with this homepage, where if I fix that error, I might be able to meet the demand of these 1,000 or so people. And this is the second product, BetterLink. And this is more of a B2B product. But basically, if you have an Amazon affiliate website where you make money with Amazon affiliates, chances are you only have one store, which is probably the country you're in. And when people click on the link, it takes them to that Amazon store. But if you get traffic internationally, then you are missing out on all the other revenue from all the other countries because you only have one store. So BetterLink gives you one link, which when people click on it, will take them to the store in their country. So that will increase your revenue. And in fact, I actually am using BetterLink on most recommended books. And just by doing that, MRB's revenue is 25 to 27% more than if it were just using the US store. So obviously the US is most of our revenue, but thanks to BetterLink, we get, a quarter more revenue. So that is awesome. And this is how I will share my data, which is using the retention first analytics platform that I'm building called Eisen. I'm a big anime fan. So Eisen is in beta right now. I don't really recommend you sign up because you can see it's pretty empty. I forgot to mention perhaps the most important part, which is through these lectures, as I told you, I will share the theory and then I will share the practice applied to 2 of my products. One is B2C, the other one's B2B, so you'll get the variety there. But the most important part is you applying these lessons to your own product. And I say this because if you just learn the theory, it's okay. If you learn from case studies and real world data, it's even better. But the absolute best is you learning it through your own experience. And it's kind of like that normal brain, big brain, galaxy brain meme. Actually, hang on, now I have to do it. Okay, this took longer than I expected, but it was well worth it. And this is exactly how I feel. Just reading the theory is okay, studying real examples is even better, but doing it yourself is where these concepts will just stick in your head and they will benefit your product. And if you need any help, then just reach out to me and I'm more than happy to take a look. And that's it. That was lecture 1. Only 51 more of these to go. But yeah, this lecture was about why retention is awesome. And I hope you're convinced now. And next lecture will be the other side of that coin, which is a cautionary tale about what happens when you don't have retention, even though you could have everything else. So I hope to see you next week. And I hope you have the absolute best day.